So it is now August 11th, 2020, and before I really get into my day here, because remember, I don't have a kitchen sink. Alright. Anyway, I'm still going to do one batch of apples today. I'll peel them in pots, maybe that big white pink bucket. Alright. I don't have to peel them like all the way through. Just get them in the pot and cook them up and get that broth going, right? So in the meantime, I'm clearing out this behind me, but oh, the house is so dusty with all these trucks. So I'm having to dust. Dusting time. Okay. It is not my place on YouTube which shadow bans me and puts me someplace where, you know, I'm practically silenced in regards to almost anything that I talk about of substance and you know, severity in terms of medical kidnappings and illegal and wrongful apprehensions and what is that called? Freaking murder, right? And then we've got like the fraud and just, you know, the whole 9 yards, right? In terms of just the issues that my family has had to face for a lot of years, right? Now, being that we're in a pandemic, supposedly, but this is a plandemic. This is not a pan. It's a plan, because it's too orchestrated for one thing, right? And it's drawing on tax dollars based on authority that was accumulated and molded under false pretense when it comes to a public union sector serving the public. Okay? I'm trying to say this fast and keep it short. So, but of course, you know, my mind's going like this for multiple reasons. But to try and stick with this, because yesterday I did a video, right, documenting the fraud. What else would you call it? People, when a government gets up on YouTube and does a pre-recorded live stream that was done 4 days ago, right, with false information, no deaths this time, but we've caught them in the past reporting on deaths that hadn't even occurred yet, but there's new infections, and with those new infections that were reported 4 days ago, but are being put out today, 4 days later, as if it's pertinent and up-to-date information, when in fact it was written by a ghostwriter. You know, like, saying this on YouTube, it's almost like it's pointless, because my voice isn't, I've said this before, my voice isn't strong enough to get that information out there, because I'm highly oppressed. I have been oppressed for a very long time, right? Because our governments don't want to see universal school meal programs. You know, they don't care about having school restorations. As a matter of fact, right now, under the new democracy, they're downsizing on their capital responsibilities in terms of schools and the structures, and right, because they're trying to push everybody to online learning with so-called teachers on the other end of the computer educating these students in the name of health and safety, so nobody gets sick, right? So, okay, that's what we're heading towards, right? For example, Amari with his, you know, his contacts in the community that work with him because of the cerebral palsy. Like, there is no center to go to and utilize those facilities in order to interact with the workers, right? Where you have a better rapport, and you know, it just works better. Now they've got everybody on, you know, when they do it through camera on the computer, you know, that's how they're having their meetings with the children and making decisions based on what somebody else wrote, versus being an actual part of that process by going into a building, because basically the government has shut down the buildings, right? And put a lot of these workers working at home. And for some workers, yeah, you know, they like it. They don't want to go to work. Why should they have to? They're a government employee. They're making good money sitting at home, right? But for other workers, they prefer to take their work out of their house and go to the office or to the facility or wherever and do their 8 hours and then go home and have their private life, right? Versus, right? So with this all said, right, it's not just that the government is lying. The government is superimposing itself directly into people's lives to the point where it's not even realistic, okay? And they're creating mass dysfunction, hysteria, and they're breeding animosity. This is what the government is doing. They're breeding animosity, right, which is like a form of hatred, right, towards their fellow man, right, in terms of, it could be your neighbor or it could be a stranger, because the premise is the governments, right, worldwide governments, like British Columbia, Canada, talking about, well, the world. No, it's not the world. This is BC. Let's get in touch with fucking reality here, right? You know, we don't base our decisions on the world, right? This is how Dr. Henry Bonney tries to purport and justify the decisions, the orders, that heavy hand that's coming, right? Because people are not following the orders. So now they're bringing in more, go off and hunt you down kind of crews, right? You know, in order to stick with the order, when in fact the government themselves are lying to the public, people. Oh, okay. I'm going like this, okay? I'm not going like this. I'm going like this. I'm going, I talk with my hands. And that's another thing. Some of these people that, you can't call them people anymore. Some of these I suppose they're individuals. Some of these individuals that work in our governments, they're not correct. They're not 100% human DNA. They have been altered in some manner, whether they've been implanted with something, people, or whether they've been had major surgery and were born out of a fucking test tube. Who knows? But the point is they're not operating on a level where it's equal for humanity. And I am not the only person talking about it and starting to expose it, right? And as you get more involved to try and figure out what the hell is going on. I mean, you've always heard rumors, oh, there's aliens around, but you never seen them, right? You know, you've always heard that, just things, over the years you've heard, but you never really came into close contact with them to the point where it directly affected your life. Now, take that one individual out of millions and switch it around. Now we've got millions struggling with, well, gee, what are we dealing with here? Are we dealing with real fucking human beings that are entitled? They're entitled to destroy millions and millions and millions of lives, Lives, L-I-V-E-E-S, right? L-I-V-E-S, lives, right? On a world. Well, the world is doing it, so we're doing it too, right? Well, what do you mean by world? The world is a big place, right? And if you choose only parts of the world to justify what you're doing in my world, when technically you don't even have real rights to rule my world like that. First of all, who are you? Like literally, who are these individuals? because they're not acting on behalf of humanity. Okay? They're corralling us. So as they do this, I just happen to stumble upon them committing fraud. I just happen to stumble upon them, practicing breach of trust, right? And building their case, their orders on false pretense, people. And I've done it more than one occasion, and I did it again yesterday, okay? And it kicked in at 3 days, but as soon as everything settled down, it was 4 days. The live stream that they did yesterday was 4 days pre-recorded in the past. But there, you see, they're getting fast, right? In terms of trying to hide that information. And even if I put it on the internet, right? And this is why I'm doing this right now. Even if I put it on the internet, even if I put this video on the internet, because I'm like, well, it's not getting you anywhere, so why don't you just sit on it and, put in a few more and then upload it, and, you are taking the government to court, why do you want to rock the boat and, right, throw pebbles into the water and make the water, why do you want to upset the premier by calling out the premier on YouTube, for example? This is the struggle that I'm going through right now, because I have to go to court and get the correct method in how to serve the very people that I'm exposing on YouTube. As YouTube is oppressing this information, right, by one, not letting it go through, so that other people can see the videos, and two, I'm almost positive, people, some of these YouTubers, these larger YouTubers that, do this and do that and seem anti-this, like anti-government per se, or fighting for the people or whatever it is. And some of these people are in my own province. They're not reporting on what I'm telling them. Not only am I typing it into their, right? They have access to these videos. And nobody else is saying what I'm saying, even though I've got the proof. I'm providing the proof to expose the government for what they're doing, so that what they are doing can be stopped. If people don't know what the government is doing, how are the people supposed to stop the government? They're not going to. Right? As the government continues to tear society apart, people, for their own political agenda, among other things. It's not just a so-called political agenda. They're going for the bodies too, because we're not dealing with average individuals. All right? So, me putting up this information of the British Columbia, Canada, New Democratic Party of British Columbia, right, Canada, are doing and can have been consecutively doing fake pre-recorded live streams for months. Okay, this has been going on for a couple of months now, and that's when I became aware of it. And I've documented it like 6 or 7, 8 times already. Right? And I'm going to upload it to YouTube again. And guess what? You don't even hear the crickets chirping. So, like, who's watching my fucking videos? Right? And who are these people that are getting up on YouTube? Oh, well, I'm at this rally, and yeah, I'm in support of this, and I'm against this, and we need to fight back, we need to fight back, we need to fight back. Well, here's your chance to fucking fight back. And they're not saying anything about this, people. Why? Is it because they're the Pied Piper that's leading the public down the garden path, steering the public away from the truth that I provide in terms of what our government is doing to 5.1 million people and a bit? Because you can't include the public union sector in that 5.2 million people. You cannot include them into that pile because they don't see themselves as equal to the public. They see themselves as above. And if they see themselves as a public servant wanting to do the right thing, the corruption is so deep and so bad within the public union sector itself. QP, the union is controlling the government, right? You know, they can't protect themselves any more than I can protect myself, right? Because they'll get fired, you know, they'll get gang stalked on the job, right? You know, somebody's going to get hurt, right? You know, they face the same dilemma, the good guys, the good gals, than average people like me. Right? It's easier for me to upload it on YouTube and take a chance and maybe somebody will see it and really fucking throw it out there so that the information can get out there so that other people in other states and other provinces can catch their own governments with the lies that they're feeding to the public as one means to fight back against. This is more than tyranny, people. Okay? If they weren't wanting those dead bodies so bad for whatever perverse reason that they use them for, then maybe I wouldn't be so zealot about in terms of this information needs to get out there, you know what I'm saying? Because they are harvesting us. They go for the weakest of the weak first. They go for the women and the children because we don't have the men and the resources and the networking to fight back. We're easy to pick off. And you're going to watch over the next year, if this shit continues, and a lot of people are starting to lean in this direction, they are well aware that our politicians have sold us out. And the ones sitting up in there with their 2.2 this and 2.2 that, and they're driving this and driving that. Sure, they're safe right now, people. They're, you know, on average, because, you know, they pay higher taxes, you know, and they've got a little more network within the community, you know, so their family's not going to be picked off too soon. That's why they go for the women and children, and the elderly, right? Elderly mainly for their money. But I'm pretty sure under the circumstances of what's been going on, they're probably using the elderly for science experiments before they snuff them off. Because these things, individuals, they like their bang for the buck, right? They want to get the most for their investment, right? This is what we're dealing with. Because if we weren't dealing with this, they wouldn't be consecutively pre-recorded, restreamed live stream over and over and over and over and over again to keep that wool, that mask pulled over people's faces. And me uploading this onto YouTube doesn't seem to be making much of a difference because some of these individuals that purport to be freedom fighters are not freedom fighters, people. They just lead the public into a different path to distract away from the truth so that you don't find out the truth. So your friends don't find out the truth. So nobody finds out the truth. So that in a year from now, right? Well, it's going to be a mass harvest, only it won't be a harvest of wheat, okay? In terms of something that you would eat. It will be a harvest of something that something else eats. Because it's already been happening. So, with that said, I'm going to upload what I did yesterday, only because I had a bit of time. Right? It kicked off at 3 days, but because of how the system works with YouTube, it turned out to be 4 days ago in terms of when they did that pre-recorded live stream on August 10th. They did not do the live stream on August 10th. They would have done it on August 6th. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Right? As they put in their little clippet of, oh, there's toxic drugs out there. Yeah, toxic drugs my ass. More like a fucking murder weapon that was instituted by the government. Because if they're lying about their pre-recorded live streams, you know they've been lying about the fentanyl crises because it makes too much money in the underground economy when you're flipping fucking dead bodies like hotcakes, right? In terms of cash under the table. And not to mention any other perks that they get out of it. Right? Don't let a good body go to waste, right? That's what we're dealing with. As YouTube and their affiliates and distractors, their Pied Piper distractors, steer away from the false pretense of what's been happening with our government falsely reporting time after time statistics that were written by a ghostwriter and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody wants to start talking about it. Why? This is why people are starting to say it's like a bloody nightmare. All of a sudden, everybody was just thrown into this one big nightmare. Like, we've all died, but we just haven't figured it out yet. So many people have died in a waking sense that they haven't even figured out that they're fucking dead yet. Because of the nonsense, the mayhem, the dysfunction, the backwards, God knows what we're dealing with when you've got these holograms, these individuals getting up on YouTube talking on about, well, you can't do this and you can't do this and, well, the world is doing this, so we're part of the world and we're going to do this too. This is how we're going to do things. But, every 2 feet that you take in terms of steps, we're right behind you. But don't forget, we're 2 feet in front of you too. And we've got your sides covered. So you're not going too far, bitch. Right? Because that's the nightmare that we're all in. As the governments, more than one, are giving us false information through false live streams. British Columbia, Canada is not the only government that's doing this. And this is why I'm putting it out there. Because people need to start catching their own governments doing this. Doesn't matter if you live in freaking Idaho. Doesn't matter if you live in Alaska. Doesn't matter if you live in the Yukon territories. Doesn't matter if you live in Saskatchewan. People need to start doing this in their own territories. To catch the government, to shut down this world sickness. Shut down this world nightmare. How about that? Right? But in the meantime, as I'm putting this information out there, I have to go and serve these very individuals that are lying. How far do you think I'm going to get with this, people, on my own without a fucking lawyer helping me? But speaking of that, and I'm going to end it on this, and then I'm going to upload what I did yesterday, as is. Right? I'm not lying. I'm not faking the funk. It's not my fault they're fucking lying. I just documented it. That's all. That's all. So anyone ever comes to me and starts saying blah, 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 I'll be like, hell no. That's not happening. I got proof that my government's been lying. You can't tell me this when they've been doing that. And if you do, well, there's going to be consequences. Sooner or later, there's going to be consequences around the government's lies. Not my lies. I didn't lie. I'm not the one that put 5.2 million people into a fucking nightmare plus, right? In terms of more and more and more and more people all in the same nightmare. And I'm not the one who did that. No. No, I'm in that nightmare. Okay, but I'm going to end it on this. Do you see this? Okay. Do you see this? Do you see this? Here, we'll cover up the signature. Just because. Right? Do you see this? Okay, this is Justin Bowden. The one that sent me to the cops that didn't do his job. Okay? He should have made the order to have the RCMP get involved right then and there. And call in the Attorney General. He had the authority to do that, people. I wrote it down in my notice of claim that he should do that. And instead of doing that, he told me to do it, and we know what happened there. Okay, I'm going to read it, okay? Just one very thick piece of paper. It feels like there's 2 or 3 or 4 pieces of paper in there. Okay, dear Judy Lynn Chorney, I write to let you know that Professor Christy Ford from the University of British Columbia requested access to some materials in the court record on your file, Chorney versus Fraser Health Authority, and then there's the number. The Court of Appeal recognizes the importance of the open court principle in a democratic society. And this is like joke of the year, people. There was no democratic fucking anything in the courthouse. It was moving along with their ghostwriter. Openness ensures that members of the public can understand and comment on how the court operates and how proceedings are conducted. No, Andrew the Dragon came in with his freaking binders when I'm told I'm not allowed no more than 3 pages, but Andrew was allowed that many pages, right? And he turned it into another little mini trial to get the judge to dismiss it, but because I was citing federal law, he didn't care about the provincial law, right? But as soon as I started citing the federal law, that's when he got flustered, right? Walked out, had the sheriff chase me around for a bit, okay? And then we went back in, and then he said, take it to the cops. And I haven't been back yet, people. That's why the Attorney General needs to get involved, because they need to clean up their own fucking backyard. This is their backyard, okay? This is their courthouse. I went in there to have my fees waived. I was not allowed no more than 3 pages, okay? And they turned it into a kangaroo court. And when it got hot, right, they sent it to the cops, knowing that the cops wouldn't do shit. As a result, the Court of Appeals access policy, which can be found on the court's website, generally permits members of the public who request access to court records to view the contents of those records. Professor Ford is researching the no-fee application. What happened to that when I was in court? Right? I was supposed to go in front of 3 judges. This, what's his name, didn't even allow me to get past go. Right? Okay, where was I reading? It makes me want to cry. Okay. As a result, the Court of Appeals access policy, which can be found on the court's website, generally permits members of the public who request access to court records to view the contents of those records. Professor Ford is researching the no-fee application process at the Court of Appeal and is interested in making recommendations to improve, streamline, or change that process. She requested access to some materials to your court record as part of her project. Hold on, I missed something here. Okay, the Court of Appeals recognizes the importance of the open court principle in a democratic society. Openness ensures that members of the public can understand and comment on how the court operates and how proceedings are conducted. It also makes it possible to uphold the principle that the law applies equally to everyone. As a result, the Court of Appeals access policy, which can be found on the court's website, generally permits members of the public who request access to court records to view the contents of those records. Professor Ford is researching the no-fee application process at the Court of Appeal and is interested in making recommendations to improve, streamline, or change that process. She requested access to some materials in your court record as part of her project. Chief Justice Bowden approved that request after reviewing the purpose of the project and details about how the requested information would be stored and used. So everybody's creeping into my court file, but ain't nobody doing shit about that, right? They're not settling the matter, right? There is no justice for Uncle John, now is there? No. It's just, that dirty secret now in the fucking courthouse. That's what first of all, it's still in, the dirty secret is still in Fraser Health fucking, dungeon, and then now we've got that dirty secret, Uncle John gets no justice, in the courthouse, because we've got everybody creeping my court files, but nobody stepping up to plate to do the right thing. Are you right? Am I not right, people? It's kind of like the government giving out fake pre-recorded live streams. They making it look like they're going to fucking work. They're making it look like they're honorable and they have integrity. They make it look like they're giving you the correct and the honest and the right principle type of information. But yet, in the background, we know that they're nothing but a bunch of motherfucking liars. Schemers, cheats, thieves, gangsters. Professor Ford or a research assistant in her group may contact you to ask you some questions. Well, what the hell are they going to ask me? I'll just say, go to fucking YouTube. It's all there, right? It's like, what are they going to ask me? Right? It was a gong show, right? There was no justice in that courthouse. All right, they had the fucking sheriffs chasing me around because they didn't want to deal with the problem, because I spoke too loud, people, because I stood there in front of the judge and I said, well, there's this under the Criminal Code of Canada. 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 There's this underneath the Criminal Code of Canada. And finally he just, whoa, okay, hold on a minute. And hold on. And then he took his little recess and then came back and told me to take it to the fucking cops. It was his place to order that, not mine. That's why I took it to court. Because I couldn't trust the cops. We called the cops. Marcaine called the cops. Where were the cops? The cops are involved, just like the cops were involved with ShaMay. Just like the cops were involved with Ciera. Okay? Some of these cops aren't even real cops. Don't underestimate these cops. They don't work to protect the public any more than these so-called politicians work to protect the public. And that's why I'm putting up the videos exposing them lying with fake statistics, as if the ghostwriter thought that everything that said was true, when in fact it was not. Time after time. Oh, there are no deaths to report in the last 4 days. Yeah, because you know people are starting to pay attention. But you've already knocked off 195 people to fill your fucking quota, to put 5.2 million people into a literal nightmare. 5.1 million and a bit into a direct nightmare. As we cower in our homes, wondering who's going to be picked off. I'm sure I'm not the only one living my life like that, thinking like that. I'm sure there's quite a few households in the province of British Columbia, Canada, just waiting to be picked off. Because we can't draw upon public tax dollars to be able to hire this person and hire that person and this person to do our biddings for us, as we use public facilities such as hospitals and courthouses to do our bidding. Right? We're poor. We're not afforded that right. We can't dip our hands into the public tax dollar cookie jar. We can't do that. But those individuals that get up there and fucking lie on with their fake live streams, with their fake statistics and their fake shit, they can do it. Professor Ford or a research assistant in her group may contact you to ask you some questions about your experience with the no-fee application process. Well, you know my opinion on that right now. You are in no way... That in itself warrants a fucking lawsuit, the way they threw it out of court. And then what? That was in February, and ShaMay was dead by April? Like, think about it. You do the math. On the day that ShaMay was murdered, what does CIBC Bank do? They served me on the door with some papers wanting me to go to court and face another lawyer without a lawyer. So they could worm their way out of what they did to Uncle John. And then settle that. And it just makes it easier for Fraser Health to disappear into the abyss with their deep, dark, dirty secret. Well, they got more than one dirty secret now, don't they? They have 3 of them. Uncle John, ShaMay, and Ciera. Well, Amari has 4. You are in no way obligated to participate in the interview. I'll record the interview if it should happen. But I'm sure they just Googled New Nations Unity and found my channel. They know everything about you before you even walk in. They, if I have to go and sit and, give testament, like when I went to court with, like when I was fighting for Andre, and then the last time I went to court was with, for Amari, right? Oh, yeah, for Amari. And they, you have to sit, right, and swear. You have a choice how you want to swear. And I said the Bible, right? And they're like, oh, as if. Why would they? Oh, really? I thought you were a Malcolm X, a Muslim. No, I'm not a Muslim. I'm just for the community. Right? I'm for the community, people. You don't have to promote religion to be for the community. That's what those Mayor X hats represent, for the community. The community encompasses a lot of, I wanted to say things, and it does, but not evil things. You don't want evil things in the community, especially when it is starting to become an infestation, right? So, anyway, You are in no way obligated to participate in the interview, but we wanted. That's the way he wrote it. But we wanted to inform you in advance that you may be contacted for an interview in case you wish to participate. Sounds like a setup to me, people. Okay? They're just toying with me. That's all. They know in another 10, 20 years from now, anything that I've ever had to say will be pointless. It will be so buried in a sea of information and rumorville, right? In terms of I'm this, I'm that, I'm, without looking at, you know, the things I've said or done over the years in terms of what's real and what's not real. But, so I'm going to end it on that. You heard that. I don't know. They haven't called me yet as far as I know. And if I'll just get angry talking to them because it needs to be dealt with. That is still pending, people. Whatever happened in that courthouse that day, it's pending. Okay? There is no closed file on it. So sooner or later, some lawyer, somebody with the ability to navigate through the court system is going to have to deal with it. Okay, so it's August 10th, 2020. You can see what's happening here. It just started now. Now, because they're starting like this, people, this kind of tells me it's a pre-recorded live stream. Okay? That's what it kind of tells me, right? But we'll give them the benefit of the doubt on August 10th, 2020. Okay? We'll be back. Hold on. Okay, you can see. Move to the next page. Refresh. You know what? It's not even coming up here, people. They don't even have it posted on their page. Here, you can see. I'm refreshing. Where is it? It's right there. It's on. Okay. Why is it not coming up in here? See that? They're not even streaming it there. So, let's go to home. They don't even have it on yet. But it says it's on here. So hold on.
Providing another in-person briefing that will include some new information about our research into COVID-19 in British Columbia on Thursday that Dr. Henry will be providing. And with that, it's my honor to introduce Dr. Bonnie Henry.
They don't have it here, people.
Thank you, and good afternoon.
Isn't that interesting?
So today we're reporting on 3 periods from Friday to Saturday. We had 50 new cases. Saturday to Sunday, there were 37 people identified with COVID-19. And from Sunday to today, an additional 44 people. That brings us to 131 new cases in the last 3 days, including 1 epidemiologic linked cases, bringing our total in British Columbia to 4,065 people diagnosed with COVID-19. That includes 1,220 in the Vancouver Coastal Health Region, 2,139 people in Fraser Health Region, 148 people on Vancouver Island Health Region, 391 people in the Interior Health Region, 96 people in the Northern Health Region, and 71 people who are here who reside outside of Canada. We now have 445 active cases across the province, including in all health authorities, of whom 9 are in hospital currently, 3 of whom are in critical care or ICU. We have had no new deaths over the last 3 days, leaving our total at 195 people who have died from COVID-19. They're in there to protect
people,
all
pay
of
attention
us,
to
and
this.
we should not be putting staff and people who work in those settings at risk, which is what we do.
It was over
and we
here,
have modified the orders to make sure that we can support those venues in standing up when people are asking them to break those rules.
Here's this
because
one.
It will cause the business to be shut down.
This one was done
can be
2 days ago.
So we need to
all
understand that these rules are in place for a reason, and we do have orders
coming in
that
here.
apply to restaurants and pubs and nightclubs, and party buses. If they're all people that are part
there
of
it is again, because I tried to double check it.
Smaller than 50, maybe it works, but I still have concerns about
Here is one that shows it hasn't even come on yet.
WorkSafe and our bylaw officers and our public health inspectors
This was
are working
something to do with
to support businesses
that
being able
from
to
2016.
make sure that they are effectively able
Here
to
we've
deal
got
with this.
them
But we
on.
all have a responsibility to not try
Still
and put
says
people in
live.
those impossible and dangerous situations. And that's
look
where
what they've
we
done.
need to collectively talk to our friends.
They jumped it
about,
forward.
What is appropriate behavior?
They moved it forward,
And
right?
I mentioned
Was
it
this
again
one?
today, asking
Then they had that one.
restaurant owners or pub owners or nightclub owners to break the rules is just not appropriate.
Do you have a follow-up, Shannon?
You see that?
Yeah, on a different
That's
topic,
the 6.
The production of The Good Doctor, the television show, has been halted over a disagreement about how many times the crew should be
There it is right
tested.
there.
The production team wants people
See?
tested every
The
3
6.
days. The union doesn't like that idea.
This one's next
What
to
are your
it,
thoughts on this?
but
Should
for
we
some
be
reason it
testing
came
more?
in
Should
here.
employees be
But
allowed to set standards, or employers
they've
allowed
jumped
to
it
set
forward.
standards on how often
Do you see how they
employees
moved it
can be
forward?
tested?
Okay, it was right
So,
next to this one.
These are all delicate
This is crazy,
negotiations
people.
between the union and the production company. I understand.
Okay, there's the 6.
That we have parameters.
I got too many of them up
we
here. You
have
can
in
see.
place
That's why
to
I'm
keep workplaces
having
safe.
a hard time.
And WorkSafe BC has some very detailed parameters for productions like this
in the
one,
front
and
now.
we expect those to be adhered to. So I am sure that everybody wants safety.
not
as
showing
the
there.
primary aim, and they will work together
See?
to come to an agreement.
August
around this
6th.
issue.
They've got
Next
it
question
coming
is from Richard Zussman, Global News.
before this. But for some reason they've corrected it. They've moved this now before this. Okay? Instead of behind it, it's before it. Do you see?
Grandparents who are looking at a return
See what they've
to
done?
September, they're worried about their own health.
Okay.
Should they continue
So what, was this done 2
to be
days ago?
part of after
Right? Is that why it came in like that?
School care or part of the care network associated with a child?
Is that why it came in like that,
Yeah,
people?
and these are very
Because this
difficult
is a live
questions to
stream
answer
from
for
2 days
everybody.
ago.
But the short answer
Right?
is
You can see.
yes. If you're part of
Right?
that child's bubble and have been
Today they reported
having
there
that
was no
role,
deaths.
then you as a
And if this
family
was done 2
need
days
to make
ago,
sure that you're doing it
and
as
we're
safe
2
as
days
possible.
behind,
We are putting in place
again, it's just
health
coming from
measures
that ghostwriter.
to make sure schools are safe,
Okay?
to
You see
reduce
that?
the possibility
It's
of
pretty
transmission in
pretty
those
apparent,
settings.
right?
And we are confident that we know how to manage it should anybody come to school
Okay.
with COVID-19.
It's completely reversed itself.
Grandparents need to look at their own risk. They play such an important role in children's lives, and it supports families. We've heard this from many, many families. That,
It's this one.
that before and after care from grandparents. But then we may need to think about,
see?
okay, what is it that I do at work? Maybe we need to reduce our social bubble. Maybe our children don't go to other activities outside of the school setting, so that
see
we
that, eh?
reduce our overall risk as a family. So those are the things that individually, the order
Talking
around
about
50 is
breaking up
something
parties.
that can lead to fines.
Right,
And
that's
in
what they're
addition
talking
to
about. That's what she's
nuisance
talking about.
behavior and noise complaints and other behaviors. So I know my colleagues in public health are working with their municipal and public safety communities to put together approaches that help support us stopping these types of gatherings that put our whole communities at risk.
Yeah.
Do you have a follow-up question, Marcella?
Yes, regarding the outbreaks of care homes in the mainland, what's being done to ensure staff members are
I'm waiting for her
not
eyes to start flashing lights, like fuzzy lights.
telling health workers and other frontline employees to avoid large gatherings and parties because they're putting other people at risk.
Stella, you're going to have to repeat yourself. Your question cut off.
Oh, sorry. Just regarding all the outbreaks at the care homes in the Lower Mainland, what's being done to ensure staff members are not bringing the virus into these places? Because last week, Dr. Henry made a point of telling healthcare workers and other frontline employees to avoid large gatherings and parties because they could be putting other people at risk.
And that is something I will say that all of the newer outbreaks that we've had have been identified with a single case, which tells us that we're catching things earlier. And there are screening protocols for every healthcare worker going into every setting every day, and those are helping. And we are also identifying people who are contacts. So some have been related to social events, but we also know that there's
it jumped forward. It was over here,
outbreaks that
and it
we've
jumped
seen,
there.
Particularly in the Blueberry packing facility, for example, and people who work in those facilities often
there it is right
or
there. Look at the date.
Workers who are going back and forth to the United States, for example,
look at the date.
May live with a healthcare worker. So there are many reasons why.
There it is right there. All of a sudden, it's in the front
screening
because it didn't come right up.
And making sure that we have. And
remember,
we have a very
took me a while to get it up.
Now for detecting cases early and for having an outbreak team on site immediately to manage, to assess everybody, so all of the residents, all of the healthcare workers, and that's what we're trying to do to manage and contain these.
No, they're stalking people. That's what they're doing.
As healthcare workers do have an obligation.
You should really come back and listen to how they're going to be running a public institution called a school. It's the 60 scoop all over again, people.
That we are being affected as well.
Right? It's not residential schools. It's the public school system where the 60 scoop is going to happen.
Safe. We've known from the very beginning.
Right? In terms of science experiments with nurses and psychologists and nuns and priests and Satanists.
When we're working with very with people who are at such risk as our seniors and elders.
It's right there. You can see it for yourself.
Next question is from Rochelle
There's
Baker,
the 6th.
National Observer.
There's the 10th. There's their so-called concern.
Can you hear me okay?
Okay. But
yep, we can hear you.
Within 15 minutes,
thanks for taking my question.
They readjusted. There's the 6th.
Dr. Henry.
There's their so-called concern.
In the classroom.
There's the 10th.
BCTF has
because they have to change the date.
Regardless of compute.
They have to change the date from when it was actually recorded. And the way things are looking, I'm thinking it was done 2 days ago. But I could be wrong, people. I could be wrong.
In June,
okay, so we're on our last question here. You can see I'm just refreshing the page.
On the situation.
All right.
So it depends on when and
last
where.
question.
If it happened, when they had
Let's see why it jumped forward.
Infectious period, then no.
And didn't stay backwards.
Anybody who was
who's
self-isolating.
One of those
if it
believe
happened,
half of what you see
to many other children.
None of what you hear.
A risk assessment is done and a case investigation is done by public
This
health.
is the last question.
And I will remind everybody that we
so we're just going to go through it, people.
And that's the medical officers of health across the province for every school. And we're used to working with the school community around infectious diseases and other concerns.
They keep drawing on that
in the school
as if it justifies what they're doing.
Nutrition and sports and physical activity to managing infectious diseases. So there will be an investigation of every single case, and then anybody who is at risk will be removed from the environment and self-isolating.
There you go.
The worst case scenario.
So now they're going into people's houses and removing them from the environment and putting them by themselves.
Self-isolate, be required to self-isolate.
Are you listening to this?
And we need to have some flexibility in case something like that happens. But it's much more likely. The unit of learning is still going to be classroom-based. And those will be smaller units.
Taking out the furniture,
so it's still
everything.
In the classroom. So the most
sounds like they're trying to save money. They don't want to invest money into capital costs.
Transmission is in a much
right?
group of people. So each of those will be investigated individually.
Yeah. Union first. Right?
Oui, merci beaucoup. C'est en effet le travail qui fait.
This is the only way. I'm wondering if it's going to go back. That's what I'm wondering, people. Hey? That'd be funny.
Ça dépend de la situation, bien entendu.
They definitely did something.
Toutes les écoles en Colombie-Britannique
it moved forward. Remember? It was back to back with this one. It was the 6th, the 10th, and then this one. And then refresh a new page, and it jumped. It jumped over this one, and now we're right there. On the last question. If you're watching this video, you should watch this live stream. Well, you don't have to watch it, you can just listen to it to see what they're talking about, right? What they have in store for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of children. Okay? Right? With lording authorities chasing them around
That's all the
town.
time we have for today. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, let's just watch and see. Let's see what happens. There you go. The proof is in the pudding, people. The proof, did you see? As soon as they turned it off. But we got it. It's right there. This was done 3 days ago. This was done when this was done. I told you, they're doing them back to back. They go into the movie set. They do their live stream. Right? This is not a live stream. This is just some post. Right? And then they finish. They go have their water or whatever they drink. Change their clothes. Grab the next script. Go back to their podium. Redo another fake live stream. Put it on private. And wait for the day that it's listed for. And then restream it. And that's why it came in like that, back to back. Do you see that? 3 days ago. Okay. Notice how it's behind. Notice how it's in the front. But notice how it says 3 days ago. Okay. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Okay. There is no disputing that. And then they're going to take it down. Let's go to a different page. Okay. See, there it is again, right? I'm just running through these. Okay. That was before it came up. It didn't come up right away. And when it did, it came in like that. But they had to correct it. They had to move it forward to make it look like it was legitimate. Right? And if you notice the live stream, as soon as it ended, it clicked out. But if I go into... which one do I want? Let's go into this one. Okay? It's just a matter of time before they take it down. They have to take it down. It takes a few minutes, I guess, for them to take it down. So we'll just sit here and keep refreshing the page until it's taken down. And then it will be reposted with, depending on how long it takes me to come back, it will be 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 43 minutes. You get the point. It's going to come down, people. It has to come down. They can't leave it up because it was done there. They did them back to back. Right? They reported that there were no new deaths 3 days ago. How would they know? How would they know any more than they would know 3 days ago that there were deaths when the 3 days hadn't even happened yet? And this is why I'm doing this. Because they're screwing around with hundreds of thousands of lives, millions of lives. And they've turned it into one big 60 scoop. as they practice Satanism. Okay? And I can show you that. I'm going to show you a little snippet. But not on this video. Okay? Because this is really hard for me to get a grasp on. It's not that I don't comprehend it, because I do. It's black and white. Right? It speaks for itself. There, do you see? It's gone now. Do you see how that happened? And then we know they're going to repost it. But if we go to that page, that was the first page. But here's another page. I'm on page 3. Do you see? Here it is right here. Back to back. Alright. But we were just flipping it around on this one, and they took it down. Go to the next one. Alright. There it is right there. Okay. But they moved it to the front, and as soon as they cut off the live, the true date came up. But then they turned around and they took it down, and now we're going to sit here and go like this. But I'm not going to sit here and go like this. I'll come back in 10 minutes, because it will be reposted saying it was just streamed 8 minutes ago or whatever, 10 minutes ago. It's going to come back, okay? It's going to come back on this page. You're going to watch and see. It's going to come back because they're lying, people. Okay, so I don't know what time, what time clock YouTube runs off of, but anyway, here it says 3 days ago. Prior to that, though, it was 2 days ago, right? But it's updating itself, right? So it's 4 o'clock now, Pacific time, and it's coming in now at 3 days ago, where I opened up this page, you know, 45 minutes ago. So that's probably why it's still saying 2 days. So here you can see, this is when they first started, because at first it didn't kick in. And then when it did kick in, it was shown up here, behind this, okay? Back to back with this, okay? I'm just going down the line here, right? You can see I opened up another page to make sure I was seeing correctly, and I was, okay? Page 1, page 2, right? Probably when I first started, okay, was waiting for it to come up. Eventually it did through a different browser, okay, all right, but just notice how it's changing in there, right? I didn't notice that before. And then we had the live all of a sudden magically appear in front of this, even though we have it behind it. Where is it? They all look the same. There it is. That's the one behind. That's the one before. And then as soon as they kicked off the live, as soon as they did it, that came in. But they quickly took it down. And now we're waiting to find out how long it took for them to repost it. There it is. 13 minutes ago. Okay? Which we know is a lie. Because it was done 3 days ago. And that's why this is reading now. That's why this is reading now 3 days, people. Do you see they got it here at 2? Right? But it's kicked over now. And it's coming in at... Okay, if I refresh this page... Right? You see? It was behind. Right? But here it says 3. Right? So 4. So this one would kick in... Okay, this says 4 now. Do you see how that changed? Versus 3. and then 3. So this one here, right here, this one and this one should both read 4. Because this is reading 4 now. This one's reading 3 now. So this one should read 4. So this was done 4 days ago. Okay?